Welcome to the whole group hosted webinar on Lead to Cash. We're quite excited today because we have an opportunity to explore something that is maybe one of the hottest product launches that we've seen in the ServiceNow ecosystem over the last year or two. We've seen a lot of organizations get excited about ServiceNow making some really bold moves in the front office and the middle office. And there's an existing footprint in this space, and we'll get an opportunity to explore that a little bit today. That is already deployed and trusted across 70 of the largest telcos. And there's this expansion that's taking place in this product area as ServiceNow launches new capabilities further up and into the lead to cash lifecycle. Quick introduction of myself, and then I'll do a little introduction of the speakers for today. And then I won't talk for most of the session. You'll get to hear from some of the experts here on the call, not only about their domain expertise, but also about their products. So I'm Jorge Watson. I'm the head of consulting for the whole group. The whole group is a pure play, dedicated ServiceNow partner. We're focused on helping organizations with both front office transformation, middle office transformation on ServiceNow. So that's the CSM suite and the industry workflows suite. We also have expertise within finance and supply chain. Not only do we do delivery services and advisory services around these products, we also build product. And we work really closely with teams to not only extend the ServiceNow platform with new capabilities and data layers, like our partnership with MasterCard, we're also building product alongside ServiceNow in some key areas of the product suite. So we're a new entrant in the ecosystem, but we're domain experts in lead to cash, and we're driving work within customer and industry workflows and finance and supply chain and product building. So with that, I'd love to introduce our speakers today. We've got some great folks that are on the call. First, I'd like to introduce Tom Sturgis. Tom Sturgis is the CEO and founder of Kraton. He's also an advisory board member on the whole group's advisory group. A lot of the tools, resources, and talent that we brought over from the work that we've done in the past and Lead to Cash has been born from the work that we've done with Tom Sturgis and as a leader both at HEG and also at Cognizant before. Now Tom is an expert in the marketplace, talking a lot about new capabilities and components that are out there, helping organizations decide on what the future looks like around Lead to Cash. And today we're going to get a chance to hear a little bit of his perspective as we introduce the Lead to Cash capabilities within ServiceNow. To the right of Tom here is AJ. AJ's the vice president at ServiceNow, leading the sales and order management or Lead to Cash product portfolio. AJ comes from a background, a wealth of experience advising organizations and driving product strategy across the board. And he planted his flag within ServiceNow, and he's driving this really robust strategy to drive a lead to cash capability to market quickly. And we'll get a chance to explore a little bit of his vision for the product and also what customers are looking for today. We go to the right of that, we have Ben Person. Ben is the CEO of Tenon, and Ben, lots of years of experience working in the ServiceNow ecosystem across different brands, and now dedicated to driving new product innovation within ServiceNow with this new product company around marketing automation that extends the lead object within ServiceNow. This is really exciting for us because it completes the picture when you're an organization that's really looking at that front office process and all of that marketing automation logic that you need in order to drive a lead strategy. Ben's going to uncover a little bit of those details in this session today and give you some clarity. And lastly, Blake Grubbs. Blake joins us from Logic. He's the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Business Development. We've been on a webinar before with Blake where we talked a little bit about Logic and ServiceNow and the plays that are in play there. Logic is a fast-moving, high-growth organization that's driving innovation not only in the other ecosystems, commerce platforms, Salesforce, but also driving a massive strategy around ServiceNow to extend the product capability that's available today so that you have something that's really robust for those high complexity scenarios within ServiceNow's quoting environment. So without further ado, really incredible panelists. Now let's hear what they have to think. I'd love to go ahead and introduce Tom Sturgis to provide some opening remarks and comments, and then we'll pass it over to AJ from there, and you'll get a chance to hear from the team. So Tom, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Jorge. Greetings, everyone, from the sunny campus of the University of Montana. It's a delight to be with you and talk about the rising lead to cash platform. By background, lead to cash is something I've been doing for a little over 35 years. It's hard when you start measuring things in multiple decades, but happy to share with you my thoughts on the ServiceNow ecosystem and lead to cash and how I believe we're entering a new era for lead to cash. And, we chose this title very intentionally, that it's rising. My worldview is that ecosystems, companies, genres, I can introduce eras, they have a high tide, they have an emerging, they have a high, expectation. And then there's times where they begin to falter and then they're replaced by a new paradigm. And so I'm excited with the depth of expertise that we have on this call to discuss what we're calling a new era in lead to cash. So Echo, if you can go to the next slide. A little bit about my background. I view that over 35 years, we have three eras that I would consider in the past. I would view that we are currently in what I call the rise of the cloud and SaaS. And I believe that we're at the beginning of a new era, a new paradigm, and I'm excited to be able to talk with three experts on this call today. But a little bit about the past, and what's important is, what was it? Why did something new need to come along? But it started where you couldn't buy enterprise software. All you could do was custom code COBOL and DB2 and Fortran. And that's what we did. We built systems from scratch, and every client was unique and different until the big consulting companies like Accenture and IBM and EDS said, maybe they're not all so different. And it was a big, colossal save as from one big, massive custom coded system into one big custom coded system that could be purchased, right? So if you did something for a telco in North America, could be bought by a telco in Australia or a telco in Sweden or a telco in Brazil. And then you customized on top of that. We called that the age of the behemoth. And these were massively expensive systems that took a long time to build. Fortunately, they lasted for a long time because business models of the day didn't change all that quickly. But each era was replaced because the previous era was expensive, rigid, bloated, and slow, right? And pretty soon, and it was really spurred by, and I love the fact that ServiceNow has so many years and experience in telco, but deregulation of the telecommunications industry in 1996 created a whole bunch of what we called at the time best of breed or point solutions. We call them customer care and billing or telco in a box. And we began to understand lead. The term CPQ had not been invented yet. And it was like, how do we get a lead to become a deal? How do we get that order into the billing system? How do we handle things like bundling? And as more and more industries started to move into business models and monetization strategies that were similar to telco, we started to see that SAP and Oracle and the big suite providers started to get involved. So ERP was expanding up into the front office. So the best of breed began as point solutions, and that era ended with a lot of very large solutions that were pieced together. We often called them Frankenstein architecture because nobody really knew how to integrate one company with another. And so you had one solution for lead and opportunity. And even though it was owned by one company, it had to be thrown over the fence to something in quote, thrown over the fence for something that did billing and usage and mediation were decoupled and had to be tied together, much like Frankenstein. And the time period of between 2008 and 2012 was a really exciting one for folks that were working in quote to cash. We got to preside over RFPs that said, what are these up and coming SaaS cloud providers that are working in this lead to cash space? And how do they compare and contrast with the big on-premise behemoths, right? And what we found was, wow, these best of breed and suite providers were, you guessed it, really expensive, took a long time to implement. And then once you implemented it, getting it to adapt to your changing business practices and monetization strategies and channels you were trying to deploy was slow. And we could very quickly get up to speed in Salesforce automation or in CPQ or in recurring revenue billing by buying something like a Big Machines or Azora or many solutions at the time. Aptus and CLM was one of these that we could purchase and implement very quickly. And so the paradigm of the rise of cloud, and then just like what happened in best of breed and suite, all of those individual point SaaS solutions started to be gobbled up. And Salesforce gobbled up SteelBrick, and other solutions began to Calidus Cloud and HighDeal were gobbled up by SAP. Oracle picked up Big Machines and moved on with a number of other assets before that, Portal, Infranet, to handle billing. And what became easy to turn on through the years, it was pretty easy recommendation as a consultant to say, you probably need to get more of the solution on platform. more things working off one product catalog, more things working off one data model and one object model. But what started to happen was, in some cases, a little bit of a redo of the Frankenstein architecture. Acquisitions would come in and never really be fully integrated into the solution. New product capabilities were built. Sometimes products that were considered to be horizontal products then had a layer over the top of it that made them industry solutions. And this was all great until it wasn't, right? And now we're beginning to say, where are we at really? We're to the cloud. And the promise of the cloud, I recall for myself, I would do 5-10 year total cost of ownership. And it was like in the cloud, the software is always getting better. In the cloud, you don't have to stop and do a big upgrade to get onto the new platform. It's with responsible SaaS operation, you can just continue to pay for the software and pay a premium for the software, but that software is always getting better and being more and more responsive to your needs. That, after all, is the promise of SaaS, and why we looked at SaaS and all of us made the recommendation that this is a better paradigm than these eras of the past. But over the last couple of years, I've had to do some real soul searching on my recommendations to my clients. How are we doing really? Are they able to respond to the market needs of the business? Were we able to respond to COVID appropriately? Are we now able to build upon a solid foundation when we're looking at AI strategies? Or are we in an environment that actually looks not that dissimilar from what we saw before? Are we bogged down in technical debt? Can we be SaaS? Can we be 100% on cloud? And can we also be considered legacy because it is slow and rigid and expensive and hard to change? And unfortunately, that's the situation that many software providers are in. They've evolved their own technical debt. And clients, we all know that you could buy a clean piece of software and then you could put too many custom fields and too many customizations, and the client would experience too much technical debt. But now you can go buy off-the-shelf technical debt. I never thought I'd say that, but you can go buy a product that comes fresh and squeaky clean with technical debt already laden into it. And so to me, very often the environments that clients are finding themselves in look a little bit like the old eras. And so as technology and paradigms keep marching on, I'm really excited to talk about what I see as the new next, or this new paradigm, and a few things that I think are critical to this new future. The first is integrated architecture and ecosystem. So in my experience, HubSpot and Salesforce and Microsoft and Oracle and SAP, they all have an ecosystem. They all have SIs. I could consider them all to be suns, and this concept that they're this bright, shiny object and they're planets that revolve around the sun. None of them can do everything. So they all have a litany of ISV providers that work around them. And then there's the boutique and global SIs. And are these companies working in harmony with the joint objective of client success, right? We all have different business models as software companies and small startup ISVs and large platform players. But in this future ecosystem, this keeping a focus on customer success is the North Star. It needs to be the paradigm that we're focusing on. So you're going to hear from Blake and Logic and doing CPQ in a new way. What are the new technologies that they're using? How do they partner unique and differently with SIs and with the Suns that is going to make for better success for our clients? And it's going to take old school rigor, technical debt I've mentioned several times, teaming relationships, working with customers that treat us like partners, not as vendors, right? We've often talked that you need 3 legs of the stool to be successful. The client needs to bring all the right resources. The software companies need to bring all the right resources to bear. And then the SI needs to come and help make everything work in harmony to drive to success. And only when we provide this old school rigor and we are leveraging platforms that don't come laden with technical debt, that are investing in the future technologies, are we really able to deploy AI quickly for our clients? And not just quickly, but enduring and in the right way, right? Everybody wants to do this, but everybody's right now architecture is a little bit ahead of their product. And I'm super proud to be working with the ServiceNow ecosystem, where basically, the product is on par with the marketing. In some cases, the product is ahead of the marketing. And finally, before I hand it off to AJ, 1 + 1 = 3. Right? I believe it was Socrates that said the whole is better than the sum of its parts. And that's what we're here to talk about. is we could all show up when the client has purchased the software and issued RFPs for the SI, and we're meeting at the client site and we're trying to figure out how the products work together and how the SI's methodology work together. What you're seeing here is several months and several quarters of working together to say, when the rubber hits the road, what is our strategy? How do these products work together? We're going to hear from Ben how the product for Tenon was co-developed, and now we're co-marketing, and this isn't the first time, right? And so this is part of the new paradigm. And so with that, if AJ has joined us, I'd like to have AJ take us through some of the nuts and bolts of the sales and order management platform.
Thank you so much, Tom. Appreciate it a lot. I'm going to steal that coinage off the shelf technical debt. I haven't quite heard that before. But good morning, good afternoon to all of you for taking the time. My name is Anandan, also go by AJ, based in the Bay Area. Just a little bit about myself. I worked for the last 2 decades or so in the lead to cash CRM CPQ space. A big chunk of it was spent with vendors, but I also spent close to 7, 8 years working on behalf of customers, implementing these products. And so that gives you a sobering perspective on the space. This market has had a long history, which Tom pointed out. Some of it is tortured, some of it is complicated. And so as we look forward, we often ask ourselves, how can we avoid the landmines of the past and chart a course in which customers can actually get business value out of these things? They can implement stuff fast. They get composable, coherent, and connected applications. So that was really the mission we had for ourselves, and as we started working with our partner ecosystem. Do you want me to share it, Tom, or okay? So let me talk a little bit about ServiceNow as a company, because I know some of you may not be familiar with it. ServiceNow started 20 years back and is now one of the largest enterprise cloud platform providers. We started in technology workflows, and we built a substantial business based on products like IT asset management, IT service management, and so on. But 10 years back, about 2015, 2014, we started building a customer workflow business, largely focused on customer service management. And in the last 10 years, it has now become the fastest growing business unit within ServiceNow. We expanded from customer service management to include products like field service management. And more recently, we launched a product called sales and order management. So the one unique thing I've found about ServiceNow, having worked for a lot of other vendors in the space, is ServiceNow takes this concept of a platform ethos very seriously. So all the products that you see on this chart, they work on one common data model, one common platform. 70% of the R&D budget goes into the platform, and the capabilities in the platform are taken advantage of by all the applications. Today, we are going to mostly spend time on sales and order management, which is a product that you see in the middle section here. Next slide, Tom. So the one point I do want to make is that significant investments we are making in Gen AI, in predictive AI, in terms of how do we run clouds in a more efficient way. Capabilities like how can we have an extensible, scalable workflow engine. All these are done at the platform level, and these capabilities are taken advantage of by all the applications in the stack, including sales and order management. Next slide. So in terms of the strategy for CRM and lead to cash itself, we've had a very systematic, intentional expansion of use cases over time. We started with customer service for middle office, were tier 2, tier 3 kind of call centers. And over time, we started expanding into contact centers that were directly interfacing with customers. And many of these customers were telling us that ServiceNow, you do a good job at customer service, you have a great workflow engine. Have you considered that you should extend your capabilities into Salesforce automation, into order management, into CPQ? And as we started digging into these markets, we saw that many of the challenges these customers were facing were not dissimilar to what we had seen in other parts of our customer base. So over 24 months back, we started investing in sales and order management, and we launched the first version of the product earlier this year. The order management part of it has existed for more than 3 or 4 years now, but the sales and order management repackaged as a new product was launched earlier this year, and we've done close to 40 transactions to date. It's one of the largest areas of investment within the customer workflows business unit. Next slide. So the question I often get is, what are customers telling us? Why do they feel underserved? What are the big challenges that they have? And I think Tom alluded to this a little bit. There were three kinds of problems that customers came and talked to us about. One is they said that vendors show us great demos in the sales cycle, but then when we start implementing it for our use cases, our customer segments, our geographies, our business units, it somehow does not extend. I cannot see the source code. I often cannot extend the capabilities or the behaviors in the engines. So the challenge we see customers having is that they are not able to do variability of processes and they are limited by what vendors give them. The second challenge is that no customer thinks about front office, middle office, back office in traditional terms, right? You have a problem to be solved. You want to give an intentional experience to your customers and you want to be able to do it. Sometimes it touches SAP, sometimes it touches billing, sometimes it touches some of the systems that you have, but it does need to work. So the idea that you could have an end-to-end workflow that uh, creates an intentional experience interoperating with multiple systems is something customers desire and want. And lastly, even though we've had a lot of investments in the space over the last 30 years, and Tom talked about the evolution, large companies still have challenges in connecting what is quoted to what is fulfilled, what is contracted, what is paid, what is returned. That coherence of an end-to-end customer journey that you have full visibility into is something customers still struggle a lot with. Next slide. So what we have done over the last 24 months has gotten us to this point where we have significantly expanded the functional scope of ServiceNow to go beyond customer service into areas like opportunity management, configure, price, and quote, renewals and expansions, giving capabilities for sales reps and account managers and sales development reps to be able to sell at the point of service, connecting service, sales, and fulfillment together. So the scope of capabilities that we have today offers any enterprise to be able to self-fulfill and service on the ServiceNow platform. Next slide. So these are the products that we offer today. Sales and order management is what allows you to sell as well as fulfill. Customer service management allows you to service, and it closely works with sales in the sense that renewals, expansions, traditional MACD, how you engage with the customer through the life cycle is done through a combination of sales and order management and customer service management. We've also had a field service management product in the market for the last few years, a very successful product that focuses on field service technicians. Again, the unique thing I want to point out is that all these products are built on the same data model. So an opportunity object is available not just in sales and order management, but also in customer service, so that an agent can create an opportunity, also to a field service technician. The objects themselves are shared across multiple applications, and they are built on the same architecture. Next slide. So in SOM itself, I do want to give a little bit of color on the 6 pillars we focus on, which include lead and opportunity management. When Tenant talks about the capabilities they have built on campaigns, they will allude to the fact that those are built on top of the lead object and the opportunity object we have. CPQ, contract management, which is legal contract generation with dynamic terms and conditions, order management, order to cash operations, partner relationship management. These are the 6 pillars of SOM, all built on top of a common foundation of a customer master, sales catalog, technical catalog, and customer lifecycle workflows. Next slide. So we have 9,000 customers today at ServiceNow, and 4,000 of these customers are customer workflow customers, which means that they use some parts of customer service management, field service management, or sales and order management. These include some of the world's largest telecom and tech companies, companies in financial services, big banks, companies in medical devices, payers like United Healthcare, some large public sector institutions at the state level, at the national level, at the municipality, city level. We also have a fair bit of penetration into retail and hospitality, and a higher education institutions of learning. And within manufacturing, we have customers using us for a whole bunch of use cases in customer service, order to cash operations, and increasingly in sales and order management. As we go to the next slide, Tom, I want to focus on one specific example because often people ask us, why is ServiceNow unique? Why are you differentiated? And this is a great example of a company that just went live on sales and order management about 2 months back. And this company has an end-to-end footprint on ServiceNow. as in they start the opportunity in ServiceNow, manage and nurture the opportunity. It's a managed service provider which essentially sells cybersecurity services, Microsoft reseller to government institutions as well as to corporations. They have opportunity quoting, order capture, order management. And then what happens after? How do you implement a project? How do you manage the milestones? How do you manage the install base? How do you look at the entitlements when you do customer service? And how does it eventually integrate into the CMDB? So the entire flow from lead to contract to project to CMDB to cash is done in ServiceNow. And as tenant comes to speak, they will point out that they are implementing campaign management that is going to sit on top of the lead object natively on the ServiceNow platform. So the whole end-to-end story of the customer is going to be managed on one data model, one architecture. Next slide. So I want to end on this note before I hand off to Tanin. The question often we have from customers is they have alternatives, right? And we get asked, why is ServiceNow different? Why are you unique? Why should we go with you? And we often look at three key reasons. Number one is this company has a very strong platform ethos, right? The idea of the platform pervades all parts of the company in terms of how do we think about what we need to build, how do we build it, how do we go to market, which means that it is not acquisitive by nature. We are very picky when it comes to buying companies. We don't buy a company just because, it has some cool capabilities. We think about what happens the day after. How do we re-platform the capabilities? How does it give a coherent experience to the customer? So this one platform, one data model, one architecture is a very real thing in this company. It's not just a marketing slogan. The second thing I want to say is that ServiceNow's genesis and lineage is all about workflows. How do you connect things together? How do you go end to end? And so this idea that you can create an intentional experience by connecting the front to the middle to the back is something that is very natural to ServiceNow. That's the way the company thinks, right? The last thing I want to say, and this is super important, especially in CPQ and order management, is it is composable. Except for the platform level Java code, there's no code in ServiceNow that is not visible to a customer, not visible to a SI. So we have composability at the process level as well as the component level, which means that what we deliver to you as an application is a starting point. If you want to make a change to make it work for a particular geography, particular business unit, particular product line, your eligibility rules work differently in one place versus the other. You want to make changes to how order management flows vary dynamically based upon context. It is all easy to do that with metadata and configuration. And finally, we focus a lot on customer value and how we can unlock value. Don't look to sell as many SKUs as we possible to customers. We want to see what maximizes value creation for customers, right? And that is also at the DNA of the company that goes back to the founder. So I want to say that we have not only been building these capabilities at a great pace, but we've also been investing in a partner ecosystem. And I want to highlight four great world-class SaaS companies that we highlighted at Knowledge 24 as well: Tenon, Logic, Inno6, and Aria. And today we are honored to have Tenon and Logic with us. And Tenon, as you know, is a marketing automation company. Ben and the founders have deep expertise on marketing automation, and they are building this natively on top of ServiceNow and sales and order management. And Logic is one of the OGs in the space. They started Big Machines. They have an illustrious background in building great SaaS tools for CPQ. And both of them are going to talk about how they are building capabilities on top of sales and order management and how ServiceNow and its ecosystem can provide a unique differentiated solution in the space. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben. Ben, take it away.
Sounds great, AJ. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to hear a little bit of the backstory, and certainly we'll talk about, even that customer use case specifically and how we tie in. So my name is Ben Pearson, co-founder and CEO of Tenon. I've been working in the ServiceNow ecosystem for over 12 years. I was a CMO in my last role, and ServiceNow reached out and said, we are going after the front office, and we would like Tenon and like you to help build a business to focus on the marketing automation components of that. I'll share more about that as we go, but we are strategically partnered with ServiceNow. ServiceNow is an investor in our business, and I'll share more about what we are doing in this space. If you want to go to the next slide, I'll dive in. So as a CMO, I saw this myself. So over 85% of large enterprises have a CRM connected to marketing automation. And so, but when you sort of roll it back, as Tom mentioned earlier, you're sort of buying this technical debt. Many of the enterprise products in the landscape today have gotten to CRM and marketing automation through acquisition and are truly siloed technologies. I, as a CMO, ran two different siloed technologies, one for marketing automation, one for CRM, all of which I struggled with keeping accurate, up to date. And so, super important as we think about sales and order management and ServiceNow, being able to market to that key data using the same data source, using the same data model, and being able to drive workflows and automations based on that data. And I'll talk more about that and what that means. But ultimately, bringing together marketing automation with your CRM allows for that end-to-end alignment of sales and marketing, which is always a challenge. Next slide. If we think about that coordinating customer engagement across the enterprise, I talk to CMOs, I talk to CROs, you talk to heads of customer service and customer success, all of which say, I am struggling with alignment. I struggle with understanding what's happening in marketing, what's happening in sales, and what's happening in customer service. And being able to bring that together in a single enterprise platform is such a differentiator in this market. Even being able to leverage data like what Logic has in CPQ and being able to run marketing automations and journeys based on what products we've sold, what products can we cross-sell and upsell, how is the support and engagement with the client. Having all of that data in a single data model, single architecture is the future of where I see the sales, marketing, and customer service space going, both for B2B and for B2C longer term. I'm going to go to the next slide. So where do we fit in? And so you think about, well, what's the role marketing plays in lead to cash and the sales and order management component? It's truly that front end, but also the back end. I'll talk about that in a second. But on the front end of generating leads in the lead object inside of ServiceNow, as AJ just mentioned, we've got to attract leads. How do we do that? Well, marketing and sales host events. We drive people to our website. We're creating all this content through various channels. We're building campaigns. And as AJ mentioned, we built a campaign object inside of ServiceNow that ties right to the lead object. In those campaigns, we're building audiences and journeys. And then we've got to nurture those leads. I just saw a webinar just the other day. It takes over 100 touch points by marketing and sales to convert a lead into a close one customer. And so that nurturing of leads through email, SMS, MMS, landing pages, social media, your website continues to drive those leads and hopefully convert them into revenue. If we go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more on how we actually fit in. So in the sales and order management stack, you'll see that lead opportunity quote all the way through to invoice. But if you click once there, Echo, you'll see that Tenon expands that capability. So we support that attracting of the customers, the nurturing of the clients, again, through those marketing automation capabilities. But then we also do renewal and expansion. And so Tenon can use the same data in Logic, in sales and order management, and be able to intelligently drive marketing communication to customers based on what products they've bought, based on where there's opportunities for them to expand. As I mentioned, Tenon is flexible in being able to attach to any of the key ServiceNow products. It could be customer service management, sales and order management, field service management, and others to drive automated journeys. So as we think about, well, what's the value? Why should this matter? And why would someone on this call care about aligning these three major pillars? Well, if we look at sales, marketing, and customer service metrics, you can achieve up to 32% of your annual revenue growth compared to a 7% decrease if you don't have correct alignment in your organization. 38%, you're looking at 36% higher customer retention rate and 38% higher sales win rates when you have sales and marketing and customer success and service all in the same data set. So everyone's working off the same page and the same source of truth. And then 15% reduction when you think about that conversion rate, so the cost of acquiring customers continues to go up, right? There's lots of ways to reach your buyers. There's lots of channels, social, web, etc. Being able to bring this together certainly helps. So with that, I want to pass it over to my good friend Blake Grubbs at Logic and have you talk a little bit about logic.io.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ben. Really excited to introduce everyone to Logic here on this call today. So if we go on to the next slide, I just wanted to start by doing a brief introduction of our business. What I'll start by saying is that we've been partnering really close with AJ and team and the whole team at ServiceNow for quite a while now. ServiceNow has actually invested in our business twice, similar to Tenon as well. So we've been kind of on this lead to cash journey with ServiceNow for quite a while. And right now the time is really right in the market that we're seeing as more and more companies are really evaluating their lead to cash strategy and realizing that a lot of the solutions that have been out there in the market for quite some time are really causing some legacy challenges and legacy hiccups in the process that they're looking to find best of breed solutions to enhance, right? For marketing, that's Tenon, and for CPQ and quoting, that's Logic on the ServiceNow platform. So a little bit of background on our company. AJ alluded to it earlier. Our founders actually founded one of the earliest CPQ solutions called Big Machines, which turned into Oracle CPQ. They also built SteelBrick, which then became Salesforce CPQ. And while those are still great solutions and the team has a lot of pride in the products that have been built there, the question that we get all the time is why does the world need another CPQ? And the answer is really that buying and selling has changed a lot, not only in the last 10 years, 15 years since these solutions have been built, but even in the last 2 or 3 years, the expectations that companies and customers have over how they buy and sell their products the standard has dramatically increased. And that's why Logic exists. At our core, what we are is we're a consumerized selling solution that allows you to sell and buy products, configure, price, and quote those products as easy as you can do it in your consumer life, right? When you go on Amazon and you go and buy something there, it's as easy as a few clicks. It's fast, it's convenient. There's no hiccups in the process. That's why Logic exists, and that's why we're partnering with such a powerful platform like ServiceNow to bring the power of both of our solutions together to deliver that experience. In particular, the reason why we are layering on top of a solution like sales and order management in ServiceNow is that, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go on, is that a particular set of companies have a really advanced set of products, advanced selling motions that they need to support. Right? We are really setting out to make even those most complex use cases and those most complex selling cycles as easy as that Amazon-like experience that I referred to earlier. With that, if we go to the next slide, part of what we're building in, and part of the reason that we love partnering with ServiceNow is the focus on AI, right? If you were at Knowledge this past year, or if you hear anything that the ServiceNow team talks about, AI is embedded in the platform everywhere, and it's the same with us here at Logic. We believe that AI-powered CPQ is really going to revolutionize selling and quoting, starting with the configuration and recommendations aspect of it, using AI to make sure that your sellers and your service reps are able to configure and sell and recommend the perfect fit products for your customers' needs powered by AI. You also want to make sure that the pricing is optimized as you go and make sure, hey, we have the right product. How do we make sure the pricing for this customer is exactly what it needs to be? Giving sales reps and service reps a pricing expert over their shoulder at every step of the way. And then last but not least, even using things like voice and chat, using generative AI to be able to conversationally say, hey, Logic, I want to get a quote, for 18 golf carts that look like this and are fit for, these different terrains and things like that. You should be able to just go and chat in or even conversationally talk to Logic and be able to quote and get the perfect output. So that's the way that we're thinking about it. That's the way that businesses are going to win in quote to cash as they go forward. So we're really taking that seriously. Again, going back to why the world needs another CPQ solution, these are some of the challenges that we're seeing in the market that companies are experiencing with legacy CPQ tools. All right, legacy CPQ tools, like I mentioned earlier, have done a really good job at supporting businesses in the past, but in recent years, businesses have really struggled with things even as simple as performance, right? When I started at Logic, I remember us talking about, hey, we're going to make sure that our application just works every time for every user, right? It needs to be fast. It needs to be convenient. It needs to provide that Amazon-like experience so that whether a seller is using this tool, they can get a quote out the door as quickly as possible with as few hiccups as possible. Or if it's a customer leveraging your tool when if you want to incorporate self-service buying on your website. Again, all of us as buyers have that Amazon-like expectation of what it takes to go and buy a product. That's what we're providing for even the most complex products here. So that's really why we exist. And if we go on to the next slide here, the market's really responding to this solution really well so far. This is just a smattering of the customers that are leveraging Logic today. But you can see a lot of enterprise businesses, a lot of businesses across manufacturing, technology, software, services, high-end consumer goods. All of these types of companies are finding a need to enhance their configure price quote processes. And particularly on the ServiceNow platform, we're starting to see a lot of advantages to doing it on the Now platform. If you go to the next slide, in particular, if you give it a couple clicks there, and so the slide builds, you know, many of you on the call probably know ServiceNow for their middle and back office workflow processes and how many happy customers that they have using ServiceNow for that. But as AJ and Ben both alluded to, this movement into the front office is really critical for a lot of businesses. And a lot of businesses are really excited about the opportunity to move more of their business onto the ServiceNow platform. But if you give it one more click here on this slide, when it comes to quoting in particular, I mentioned before, there's a particular complex set of needs that enterprise businesses in particular, or businesses that sell complex products or highly configurable products, that they need to be able to support. So if we click on to the next slide, that's really why we've embedded Logic across not just sales and order management, but really across the whole customer and industry workflow suite at ServiceNow. Because when you have complex sales cycles, when you have complex go-to-market, it really involves not only just sellers going to market and configuring and pricing and quoting deals for net new customers, but as you're servicing these customers, you want to empower your service reps, whether they're in the field or on the phone, to be able to say, hey, we need to make changes to your orders. We need to make changes to your products that you're selling. We need to make changes and updates to the services that you're going to market with. So we're not just focused on that net new sale, but all the way through the life cycle of a transaction and all the way through the life cycle of what a customer's journey is with ServiceNow. So if we go on to the next slide here, I talked about that specific set of needs that companies have around configure, price, quote, or quoting in particular. If you look at the bottom of the slide here, you'll see some of the elements that are involved in that sales and order management process and in the lead to cash process that the ServiceNow platform handles extremely well and that customers are responding really positively to. But like I mentioned, certain companies that I call out on this slide have a really particular set of needs that when it comes to configuring, pricing, and quoting. When it comes to manufacturers, tech hardware companies, medical device companies, complex services companies, there's a lot of product complexity that goes into selling those products, whether it be just high volumes of product variance and product option variability, whether that means there's complex calculations for things like engineer to order products and things like that, or just products that involve many, many selling rules. That's really where Logic comes in and where Logic specializes, and layering Logic as your CPQ engine on top of ServiceNow enables those types of companies to leverage the full power of ServiceNow for lead to cash by unlocking this one critical piece. Other aspects where businesses really come to Logic and enjoy the value of leveraging Logic is when they have downstream data needs. What I mean by this is, ServiceNow does a great job at the order management, order decomp, and things like that. The ability to go and say, hey, when our sales reps are going and configuring products or configuring a deal, in the background, being able to send those order management details or production details downstream to some of these other modules within ServiceNow or to your other systems like ERP, that's a critical handoff that happens not only in the lead to cash process, but in the lead to production process and lead to fulfillment process that you need to have accounted for. And ideally, you want to have automated as much as possible. And that's another element where customers are really coming to Logic and seeing the benefits there. AJ alluded to it earlier, but also just this idea of composability and multi-channel selling. Logic and ServiceNow are very aligned with the idea of composability and the ability to expose some of these configuring, pricing, quoting, and ordering processes, not just to your direct sellers and direct service reps, but being able to expose that to your partners and your dealers and distributors and to your end customers on your website or within your app as well. Logic is a fully composable, headless, API-first app that makes it really easy to go and do that, powered by the ServiceNow platform. And then the last piece is the ability to handle complex guided selling. Right? When you have solutions, when you're really trying to solution sell, gather your customers' requirements and needs, especially when they're highly complex, you want to be able to gather those attributes. You want to be able to gather those requirements, the exact traits that they're looking for, and match those attributes and traits and qualities to the perfect fit set of products and solutions that are going to be able to meet your customers' needs. And layering Logic on top of ServiceNow is another element where we're going to have a ton of value in your solution selling strategy as well. So the last piece here that I'll finish up with is just a look at how seamlessly Logic fits within that quoting process and ordering process within ServiceNow. Right? It's really as seamless as going and creating a quote within ServiceNow, whether you're a sales rep, service rep, et cetera, from an opportunity or an account, selecting a product from the product catalog in ServiceNow, clicking customize, and going through the Logic configuration experience where you're able to go through, select the different options from all the attributes that you're able to define within Logic. Based on those combination of attributes that you're selecting, that perfect fit set of products is going to get generated to get added to the sales quote, and that'll get pushed right back into the quote within ServiceNow, where your reps can then go and manage all your pricing and discounting, your markups, your markdowns, your overrides, et cetera, and then go and convert those to order as well within the ServiceNow platform. And as I mentioned before, as that's happening, you're also able to generate your downstream bill of materials or your downstream operational data list and pass those back to your order management app, where those details can be leveraged in order management or pass those downstream to ERP for production. So the point of this slide is to really show how seamlessly it fits within that lead to order flow, and particularly within that quoting object within ServiceNow. Like I mentioned, customers are responding really positively to this, and we're working really closely with AJ and his team to make sure that this is as seamlessly embedded in now as possible. And we're really excited to continue partnering with the team.
Thanks, Blake. Appreciate it. So everyone who's listening in, please go ahead and use the Q&A feature within the Zoom link so that you can submit some questions. I want to put a little bit of a bow on the talking points for today. I want to thank all of the speakers for coming prepared with really strong points of view and information, to share with broader ecosystem about what ServiceNow is doing in this space. Here's the bow that I would put on this. There's 3 key takeaways from the session, right? The first takeaway is, look, many of you as enterprises and organizations, you're making decisions today around what the future is of your enterprise platform strategy. Many of you are stuck in existing architectures, whether that's legacy cloud applications and CRM, complicated on-prem ERP or cloud ERP migrations that you're underway on. And you may not have visibility to all of the up-and-coming high-growth platforms that are in place that are strategies that you can lean on to drive innovation at pace and to move some of that complicated logic out of those anchor systems that you've invested in for the last decade into something that's a next generation platform built for the future with those core criteria that AJ highlighted at the end of his piece. So that's the first thing. The market's shifting What's the next generation lead to cash platform? There's a rising lead to cash platform at ServiceNow. So AJ's comments in the second point that I'd like to make is, hey, this is a trustworthy platform, trusted across the enterprise. There are thousands of customers that are investing in ServiceNow today. There's a growing contingent of customers that are making a deep investment in ServiceNow for CRM, opportunity quoting, and ordering. And so they're extending their platform strategy. And because of the composability of ServiceNow, they're able to do that in increments, move quickly, and launching new capabilities in their architecture and shift into something now that can help them offset that complexity we just mentioned. That's going to provide for, and we've seen this in other market opportunities, that's going to provide for this sort of, guerrilla attack plan if you need it within your organization to quickly add value, solve for some problems in your organization, get a return on investment to continue investing upstream and replacing some of that complex legacy cloud architecture that you have in your enterprise architecture. So that's the second point that I'm making. The third is, look, if you're an organization that's ready to go all in, that you'd like to prove it and drive omnichannel, you'd like to prove it and drive lead to cash strategy. You'd like to drive notifications that are built around the core workflow capabilities that ServiceNow brings to market. You want to drive a full lead to revenue strategy on a new platform and prove it. ServiceNow is making investments in strategic ISVs that can extend the platform and provide you with a level of feature parity that you wouldn't have otherwise. Now, on that last point, I do want to pause for a second. And AJ, I want to maybe ask you a question a little bit. You've had an opportunity to share about the platform, but I think the thing that would be interesting for customers to understand is, hey, there are opportunities for customers to invest in multiple ISVs. We've heard from Tenon, we've heard from Logic today. But can you highlight a little bit, does a customer need to invest in multiple components to make the architecture work? What are some of the scenarios where customers just investing in sales and order management to deliver value? Do you mind just sharing a little bit of what options customers have when they invest in some?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, thank you for summarizing it as well. I do want to say that the use case that the customer has to start with determines what components you need, right? So let me give you an example. We had a manufacturing company that uses SAP on the back end for orders and invoices. And when they started talking to us for SOM, the biggest need that they had was a system of action top of order to cash data, right? So which means that I want to be able to do amendments, exceptions, disputes on orders, invoices, contracts, shipments, deliveries. In a case like that, it is ServiceNow Sales and Order Management plus Customer Service Management. We build a system of action using our enterprise workflows on top. So let me give you a slightly different example. A managed service provider, in fact, the example that I highlighted, they are looking to replace lead to cash. The billing is still happening in NetSuite, but lead opportunity, CPQ, order capture, order management, all in ServiceNow. But they have a huge need for marketing automation, and they have HubSpot today, which they want to replace with something natively on ServiceNow. So in that particular situation, Tenon and ServiceNow with CSM, SOM, ITSM, SPM makes a great fit. Maybe talk about a different example, complex manufacturing, heavy equipment. They have product configuration with hundreds of rules. They need headless CPQ, right? And they need a next generation CPQ experience. In a situation like that, customer service management combined with sales and order management for the transactional layer, plus logic for configuration would be a powerful alternative, right? So we see ServiceNow and the offer that we have itself as composable in a certain way, right? You take the components that you need based on the use case you have and what problems you're trying to solve. And the thing that we guarantee customers is that you can compose the workflows to fit your needs. And we will make it work for you with the components that you select. I also want to make one point that a lot of our customers do have Salesforce, right? And we coexist with Salesforce in a lot of these accounts. In large telcos and large tech companies, Salesforce does some things in the front office and we complement them. But increasingly, oftentimes customers also come and say that, hey, we need an alternative in which we can have a solution that go end to end. In those situations, we now have the capabilities to replace what Salesforce does if the customer chooses to have it all on one platform. So I'm sorry, it's a long-winded answer to your question.
That's great.
Hope that helps.
It does a great job of elaborating on the fact that, look, each one of these implementations are going to have their own unique challenges to address. The fact that you're composable, that you can launch into at a use case level, and you can bake in one or two strategic ISVs as necessary, that shows the flexibility of the platform by use case. So it's really excellent. Here's a question that kind of builds on. You made a comment around Salesforce there, and actually, this is a question. I think, Tom, I'll point this to you, but I'd love any color from the team. There's a lot that's happening right now in the marketplace. Customers are, ultimately concerned about the strategy with Salesforce Revenue Cloud. They're looking at revenue lifecycle management launching. I'm just curious how the ServiceNow solution compares to, really looking at making a decision around Salesforce Revenue Lifecycle Management, or, what options do customers that are on Salesforce have to consider CRM plus revenue lifecycle management comparisons on ServiceNow, if that makes sense. Can you give me a little bit of your point of view on the market?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for 20 years, I've said that you need to look at functional capability. What does it actually do? What is the technical integration capability in your existing ecosystem? What is the commercial capability? How much does it cost? And what is the price going to do over time? And finally, intangibles. Where's the company at? Where's the product at? Is it being invested in? Does it have technical debt? And I'm learning what the future strategy is for revenue lifecycle management or revenue cloud advanced. I'm not quite sure what it is, but speaking to the thousands of customers that are on that other package, it's hard not to feel a little bit left behind. And that's where I mentioned out of the box technical debt. And, are there going to be performance improvements, functional improvements over time, or is there going to be a big lift and shift necessary to get to the new capability? So when I look at what ServiceNow has is an ecosystem that's built with this ethos that we're going to be very selective, as AJ said, about acquisitions. But when we do, in the business case for doing it, we're going to include all the expense to roll it into one platform, one database, and make it look and feel like ServiceNow. And I think continuing with that strategy and partnering with ISVs that are like-minded is going to bring a pace, right? The length that people's quote to cash systems are lasting is getting shorter and shorter and shorter because of this lack of old school rigor while bringing in new school capability. And so I think ServiceNow is just the beginning of this journey, and with all the intentionality and lacking technical debt, but having all of that new school stuff and old school rigor is what's unique.
Thanks, Tom. And AJ, are you seeing customers make a commitment to ServiceNow for end-to-end lead to cash, and consider ServiceNow in place of Salesforce? Or are you seeing more customers work to, ultimately align their Salesforce strategy with their ServiceNow strategy? I'd love any color there.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a wide range of customers with different situations, right? We do see some customers who have very fragmented landscapes and who have best of breeds in each domain, right? They have a system for CPQ, a system for CLM, a system for entitlement management, and a system for Service Cloud. And oftentimes, while each silo is deeply capable, the fact that it is so disconnected essentially kind of means that you lost the plot. It's not working together end to end in terms of creating a differentiated experience for the customer. So some of those customers do come and talk to us and say, hey, the goal is not to have fancy features. The goal is not to buy the most functionally rich product. The goal is to solve the problem better for your customers. And the goal is to have a differentiated experience compared to your competition. And oftentimes customers are coming to the conclusion that, yeah, more coherent connected platform that may, at least at this point, be less functionally rich, but has less technical debt and is built for the future and will allow you to customize the processes according to your needs, is a better long bet. So we do have some of those use cases, but we also have customers who have made deep investments in Salesforce and who want to preserve it, and they want us to coexist with them and start with things that are complementary to what they have at Salesforce. So we will do whatever makes most sense for the customer. We are not coming and saying that you have to standardize on ServiceNow for end to end. We share the vision and say that we want to partner with you, and then we work with them on a roadmap that makes the most sense. Some cases it is starting with an order to cash op. Some cases it is starting with a partner like a tenant on marketing automation. Some situations like the MSP I talked about, the customer is visionary and say, I want to go all in end to end. How do I get there? right? Weirdly enough, though, Jorge, I do have to say that when customers have a clean slate and want to go big, you can make a lot of things happen fast. So this MSP, it's a fairly large MSP. I mean, they implemented end to end, which is basically quoting, opportunity management, order management, ITSM, SPM, customer service, all in about 16 weeks, right? So we do think technical debt that hangs over you and fragmented landscapes can be a huge burden to overcome. And sometimes it can be liberating to think about if we were to redo this, what would this all look like?
I love it, AJ. Thanks so much. Great closing comment as well, right? One of the things we've seen in these waves in industry is the speed to value accelerates significantly with each innovative platform to market. And so for you to say in 16 weeks, you can go wall to wall with ServiceNow and drive some of this strategy, that's incredible. You know, we certainly saw that with other cloud solutions to market, beating the multi-year strategy to months, now to weeks. And so thanks so much for, everyone attending the webinar today. If you have other questions, feel free to reach out to this team. We'll get them federated out. And obviously this video we'll share with all of those who have registered. But thanks so much for the time. Thanks all of you as speakers, and thanks all of you as attendees. Appreciate it.